How not to ruin your marriage is a big, bold statement. When you think back to when you first met your spouse and all the decisions that you made, from going out to dinner, from dating, the first time you have sex, what you're wearing, how you talk to each other, your first big fight, planning your first weekend away together, introducing each other to your parents, your friends, and your family, moving forward to living together, and then making the big step to actually get married. And when you get married, it's invitations, it's font, it's paper, it's color, it's flowers, it's food, it's location, it's what's the theme, what are you wearing, how many people are you inviting. There's so many questions and there's so much planning that goes into getting married. The question is, after the honeymoon, do you continue to create those same kind of plans in your relationship, in your marriage, that are going to ensure that you both endure the rest of your life together? This video is all about recognizing what are the things that you are doing to contribute to how your relationship works. Is it reactive? Is it responsive? Are you establishing clear boundaries and stating expectations, or are you just fighting and arguing in a round and round circle without any point of view? Everything that you and I do when it comes to our relationships begins and ends with you. When you think about your relationship with your spouse, is it easy for you to state a clear boundary? Is it easy for you to express your wants, your needs, and your desires? Sure, you could say, hey, I like Chinese food and I want to go to eat Chinese food on our date night. When you step it back 2 steps, when you're in a relationship with your spouse and you look over so far where you are you cultivating the type of intimacy that creates you to have that loving, deep relationship? A date night, for example. Why do you have a date night? The purpose of a date night is to be able to connect to one another without talking about kids, without talking about work. It's just about what are you two talking about that makes you go deep into each other? Are you expressing your dreams? Are you expressing your wants? Are you looking over your relationship and saying, hey, for example, we only had sex 1 time in the last month. Why are we only having sex 1 time in the month? What is going on between the 2 of us that we don't feel connected in such a way that we're actually able to have a healthy sexual relationship, which in part is a marker of a good, healthy relationship. Does it make sense? So when you're talking about your wants and needs and desires in your relationship, the number 1 reason why people get divorced is because there's a breakdown in communication. So this video, we're going to talk about how do you implement that kind of tried and true structure to ensure that you two have a loving, passionate, creative, thriving relationship. It comes down to just talking to each other honestly, being respectful, being able to talk to each other in a way that both of you can understand each other's point of view. Whether or not you agree or not, it's more about being able to put that effort into being mutually respectful and mutually loving to one another. And if you can't do it, that's when you go and use, one of the top 16 ways in order to not ruin your relationship, right? So it's making sure that if you don't have the skill sets to be able to communicate effectively, how do you go about getting that? Do you go to see a life coach and understand how and where is the breakdown in your being able to understand your self-worth and your value and building up your self-confidence to be able to show up in your relationship the way you want to, or seeing a therapist? Fantastic. Is it when you're in a relationship and you're recognizing this is the breakdown, do you sit down with your partner and say, hey, babe, over the course, my observation and request are such a good way to be able to discuss aspects about your relationship that aren't working without there having a triggering, you always, and why do you do this? When you can look at your relationship and say, listen, my observation of our time together is that we do really well with this and this and this and this. What I see is that this and this we could definitely improve upon. My request is how do you and I look at these situations and view them in a way that they're mutually beneficial. Do you, my darling spouse, see anything within our relationship that we can improve upon? Because that's part of planning. That's how you understand how and where there's a breakdown in your relationship. Because when our relationships are in such disrepair, no, that's not the word. When our relationships become in despair, it's because they have come down, they have been neglected. Our relationship has been neglected in such a way that it's almost too difficult to repair it. And I challenge you to think that's not the case. Now, I'm talking about normal relationships. Like if you're in a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, emotionally and physically, that's a different story. But when it comes to the rest of us here every single day, when it comes to just being in a relationship, it's important to be able to analyze what's going on in front of you and be able to create the kind of plans and the goals and the tasks to put in place to ensure that you each attain the goal that you have set for yourself in order to have a healthy relationship. So another example of how do you ensure that you have a healthy relationship instead of ruining a relationship is being able to assess yourself. When you look at the spouse that you have chosen, have you ever thought to yourself, why did you choose this person? What is it specifically about this person? What are the traits that you like? And what are the traits that you dislike? And because you chose this person, what is it about you that will help share your feelings, express your wants and needs and desires in such a way that helps build the continuity and the flexibility and the endurance of your relationship without breaking it down? So for example, part of being wealthy means that someone is working all the time. So that means if you're not having, for example, date nights and you feel left out in your relationship in some way, when you look over why did you choose this person, it's because they can provide for you effectively. Great. Then that means that perhaps emotionally they are not going to be present the way that you would like for them to be present. And that's okay. And it's also part of the course. It's also, if you are wanting someone that's going to be with you every single day at 6 o'clock and have dinner with you and the kids, is that the right expectation to have when you look at the whole picture of your relationship? If you're living in a palatial place, you have everything you could possibly want and need, you travel and do everything that you want, and what you sacrifice is not being able to spend time with your husband. You chose the person for a specific reason, right? If you chose a partner because they're really good looking and friendly, but perhaps they're not very disciplined and they're not very good at being committed, can you punish this person that you have chosen to be in a relationship with because they're not very disciplined and they're not very committed? The question then poses in your relationship, how do you, looking at your husband, have the kind of conversation to say, listen, now we're here in this place and time, and I'm looking at how do we improve how we navigate our relationship, and what does that take? Because you can never make somebody do something they don't want to do in your relationship. However, you can express your wants and needs and desires, and if that person chooses to meet your wants and needs and desires, then that leaves room for communication and building a different plan that's going to allow you to get from where you are to where you want to be. A lot of everything that you and I experience in life has to do with being hyper honest with yourself It's about being accountable to the situation or the challenge that you're in and being responsible to be able to get yourself from where you are to where you want to be. And part of the process of being responsible for getting yourself from where you are or where you want to be is very calculated, because it comes down to creating a goal for yourself. Or perhaps there's 5 or 6 goals that are needed in order for you to be able to fulfill what you want in your life. And then breaking down those goals to task and fulfilling each one of those tasks to complete the goal, and fulfilling each one of those tasks to complete the next goal in order to be able to fulfill what you want. So for an example, if you are living in an apartment with your spouse and you have a great apartment and you really like it, both of you are working, both of you have a certain amount of income coming in, you know, you have car payments, you have electricity, you have water, you have food, you have entertainment, and you have mortgages or apartment payments, whatever it is. When you look at the situation and you say, hey, now it's time for us to move into a house, what does that look like? How much can you afford? When you look at a house, where neighborhood do you want to live in? How much money do you have to actually invest into having a house? How many square meters or square feet do you want in the house? Do you want a yard? All these things that are really, you know, you think about planning, but then in order to actually have a house, you actually have to have a down payment and to get a loan, unless you already have that money, you know, you have that bag and you could just pay for the house. But for the rest of us, it takes calculation, it takes a plan, it takes commitment and discipline to ensure that you achieve the goal. So the intended goal is to get a house, then, and you don't have the money for a down payment, say it's $10,000 or $20,000. Then you look at your finances and you go, okay, we do a lot of takeout, for example, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. We can eliminate the takeout for the next year and take that money and put it into our house fund payment, right? Our down payment fund. And you will be very surprised by these little teeny tiny tweaks that you make throughout the course of your day, how much money you can actually save and be able to put into the goal that you have intended in your marriage. It's the same principle that you use when it comes to in your relationship. If you feel that you don't communicate effectively, then the question is, why don't you communicate effectively? And then what are you going to do about it? Not only yourself, first and foremost, first figure it out for yourself. Why don't I communicate effectively? Why don't you communicate effectively? And then be very honest with yourself. You know, never learn how to people pleasing or don't have the confidence, whatever the reason is. Then go, okay, now that I want to learn how to communicate more effectively in my relationship, what are the steps I need to take in order to ensure that? If in your relationship you want to increase intimacy, what does that look like for you in your relationship? Because intimacy, remember, is not sex. Intimacy is the caressing. It's the holding of hands when you're talking to one another. It's the kiss when you're passing each other in the hallway. It's the little notes that you write to each other throughout the day when you're working, just to stay connected. That, my friend, is intimacy. And what happens in a lot of marriages is once we get in the hardcore hamster wheel of the house, the kids, the cars, the grocery shopping, the friends, the family, all these outside things, you stop doing the things within your relationship that help cultivate that intimacy, that helps you connect it as a couple. So as much time as you plan on little Nikki going to soccer practice 2 or 3 times a week and having a game every other Saturday, that's what is needed in order to not ruin your marriage, is being able to look at the whole scope of your relationship and be able to pinpoint what isn't working. Because throughout the longevity of any relationship, those things are always going to change. At the beginning, it's, you know, getting married, the wedding, the invitation, the friends. It's very stressful. And then you get through it. And then you're in the honeymoon. And then when you come home, you're in the honeymoon phase. Everything is romantic and amazing and beautiful and sexy. And you just love it. But studies show that 36 months after the marriage, the love goes. And it's just duty and responsibility. And it's not that you don't love your person, but the things that you did in order to cultivate that sexy, loving vibe within the relationship, that energy that you have focused on creating that kind of sexiness between the two of you has now moved into paying for the house, paying for the kids, paying for the cars. So it's not that you don't love one another. It's just that that energy is being spread in other things. And part of not ruining your marriage and your relationship is being able to be honest, not only with yourself, but also to be honest within your relationship and being able to catch this breakdown in your communication or in your commitment or in how you compromise with one another in order to ensure the longevity of your relationship. So I trust that as you move forward in your day and in your life, that these little bits of information, you take and implement them into your everyday life. Because everything that I do in this channel is to give information that helps you master your life, to help you master how you show up in your life. Because at the end of the day, without you, there's nothing. Because you are the beginning and end of your marvelous and beautiful life. I trust the information you received today helps you greatly. Make sure you comment below and subscribe to the channel so that you're always getting the information to help you be the best that you can be. Make sure you give a thumbs up and a like to the video because you show me that you like this content, and the more things that you show me, the more information I will put out for you. And do me a favor. If there's topics that you want to learn more about, write them in the comments below. Or you can always email me at hello@vanessaleecurley.com. You can always go to my website and join my community at vanessaleecurley.com, that I'm starting to learn how to create a community, right? So that we can have a closed system where we can talk about things. And my purpose is to start meeting twice a month and being able to answer the questions that you have asked of me and be able to share it within our community so we both get better. And I wish you the best week. See you in the next one.